So, hello everybody and welcome! Yes, welcome and welcome back here at BSN Network here today. We welcome you back here on BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Wednesday, May 27th. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far. We're cruising through this week, already Wednesday. Obviously, most people have off on Memorial Day, so it's faster. But it's Wednesday, so we're almost there, halfway through the week. Even though this is technically second day back, it feels like a Tuesday because most of us had off Monday, even though I still did a pod. But other things we had off on Monday, so. That's good, but it's already Wednesday, so we're cruising through the week. Today we got a lot of sports to get to today. We got a lot of sports to talk about today. We got MLB plans / their salaries. I'm going to break it all down. I am very angry with some of the players right now. Not agreeing with the money aspect of it. You know how I feel with the money. And I have some things about the NHL with their money, and their money is nowhere close to the MLB's money. The NHL plans / Rangers and Islanders, we're going to talk about that second up on the show. And then we got the XFL. There's some XFL news. Is it going to return? We're going to talk a little bit about possibly, we're going to talk the XFL and the Guardians. If you don't know what the XFL is, I'll run through that later on. The New York Guardians were my favorite team. Obviously, I like to follow New York sports, so I was a Guardians fan. But the XFL, McMahon said he's not going to own it anymore or be the commissioner or whatever owner anymore, so they got to find a new owner, or supposedly that's what happened, and they got to find a new owner now and a new commissioner, so who knows what's going to happen to the XFL. It's not done yet. They just need to find two big pieces. It's not going to be easy to find those two big pieces, so it's closer to done than it is. I would love to see the XFL come back, but I'm going to break it down later on in the show. But we got a lot of sports to talk about, a ton. Even though it's really only 3 topics, I'm going to talk a lot about the MLB and the NHL plans coming up. So let's get into it. So we got the MLB plan. So yesterday, the MLB came out with another plan about the salaries, right? Because the salaries are the biggest thing, right? These players just care about the money. They don't really care about, when we're playing again. They don't even care about how many playoff teams there are. They don't care how many games there are. They don't care about any of that. The only thing they care about is if their salaries are going to be perfect, right? And I would not want to be, and this is where I feel bad for the commissioner of the MLB, Rob Manfred, because he is trying his best to get this sport that so many of us love back on the field, back on the TV, back up and live. Right? He wants to get that back. Not even people that love baseball. He just wants to get it back up for sports fans. You could be a football fan and probably watch a baseball game if that's the only thing on, right? I mean, if I was just I like football, basketball, baseball, and hockey. I like all those sports. But if I was there's some people I know who really only follow football. There's also some people I know that only follow hockey. There's a couple people that I know that follow different sports. I'm sure they would tune in to a baseball game. Right? That's what I'm saying, right? I never watched cornhole. Now all of a sudden, cornhole's on. It's live. They have masks on. They have no fans in attendance. I've been watching cornhole. Right? You're gonna get viewers that don't usually watch the sport that watches the sport. I've been watching some bowling. I'm not gonna lie. I don't watch bowling. I don't watch bowling on a daily basis. Right now, I wouldn't even think about watching bowling. But with everything going on with the virus, bowling is one of the things on. It's repeats. Some of them are from last year because you could tell there's fans in the stadiums. You could tell, right? Now even soccer's coming on. Soccer, there's some soccer leagues that are starting up. Again, I'm sure those ratings are doing good. I don't watch soccer. I probably won't watch it just because I think it's so boring. I could probably fall asleep at a soccer game. It's so boring. In my opinion, it's boring. Everybody has their opinions on sports. People say baseball boring. I don't think baseball is boring. People say soccer. I think soccer is boring. People don't say soccer is boring. You can't go off of that, right? Because everybody has their opinions. That's how sports are. There's no right or wrong answer in sports. It's everybody's opinion. I could say right now that Sam Darnold is the best quarterback in the NFL, but that's my opinion. Do I think that? No, not even close. He's not even close. But what I'm trying to make is, everybody has their opinions in sports. So Rob Manfred wants to get baseball back, right? He wants to get baseball back. He wants it back. He's trying to get baseball, back on live TV so fans watch it, So their ratings can be back up again, and everybody and sports fans can get some sort of, even just people and human beings in general, can get some sort of sense of normalcy back in their life, right? Because this is not a normal thing, right? This doesn't happen. This is never really happened before. I've never seen something like this happen with the whole virus and shutting everything down like that. I've never seen that happen. What I'm trying to say is they're trying, I think Rob Manfred, they're trying to get something sense of normalcy. Sports make people happy. And I'm not kidding by that. Really, it's true. I'm not saying that just because I'm a I'm not saying that just because I do podcasts on sports and I really like sports. Sports do make people happy, right? I'm sure some days, like, if it's like later at night, I can just picture myself sitting on my couch watching the Yankees game, right? There's been times where I've had moments where I'm like, wow, the Yankees could be playing right now. Like Memorial Day weekend, I would be playing baseball, the Yankees would be playing baseball, it would be all good, right? The Yankees would probably have a day game, nice weather, you would be able to see that, right? I've been able to picture it. Even when the XFL season got postponed because of the virus, I would picture, like, I remember when the championship game, I was like, wow, this weekend would have been the championship for the XFL. Like, that's ridiculous. That's crazy. Like we could have been watching football right now, and then baseball season would have started up. Same thing with church. Like, opening day. I was so happy for opening day. Opening day obviously didn't happen, right? So different things are happening. But what I'm trying to say is that there's some sense of hope that Rob Manfred's trying to bring. And it ain't helping by these MLB players only caring about their contracts. And it goes to show you, the bigger the contracts get, the harder it is to get a league back up and running. The NHL contracts, I'm going to break them down in a couple of minutes from now. Their contracts are nowhere near as big as the MLB contracts, and that's why they got a deal done. Because they're not worried about their contracts. They just want to get back out there and play. Because NHL players, it almost seems like, are more passionate. Right? It almost seems like they would rather play more. Some of these MLB players, it's like, oh yeah, I love baseball, but then all of a sudden they're only caring about the money. Right? I crunched the numbers. Let's just say they said they're going to take about 20% of the salaries all from the MLB players. I crunched the numbers. I took half. So they cut their salaries in half, because here's the plan. So the MLB plan was to cut the big salaries of the players in half, and then the lower players would get a salary boost. So the rookies, the guys that are, guys that are maybe only making like $5 million this season, $6 million, $5 million, $4 million this season, they'll get a boost. So maybe they'll up it by 2. So $4 million times 2, right? Something like that. $8 million. Then all of a sudden double it, right? Something like that. It's not going to be like, oh, this guy's making $3 million, now he's going to be making $30 million. It's not going to be something like that big of a jump. It's going to be something like, oh, we'll give you $2 more million. Here's your contract for this year, right? Because here's the thing. You can't play. It's true. You're only going to play 82 games. You can't have that same contract if you're only going to play 82 games. Right? You can't have this big old $30 million contract in 82 games when it's meant for a 162 game plus postseason contract. It's not meant for 82 games. You have to cut it in half somehow. You have to. That's where it annoys me a little bit, is because these players, they just care about the money. Right? Money's big and everything, right? You need money. You do. But when these guys you look at these guys' houses and you look at these guys' cars they're driving, their money must be just fine. I don't know why they're complaining. Have you seen Tom Brady's new house in Florida? He took over Derek Jeter's house. That thing literally looks like a castle. Literally, I would probably get lost if I went inside that house. Tom Brady would be on one side, and let's just say his wife's on the other. They would have to probably call each other. Oh, where are you right now in the house, right? The house is huge. Look at some of these MLB players, the cars they drive, the houses they have. Some of them are huge, and they're complaining, oh, I'm not going to get my $30 million. Not going to get it. Not going to get it. But yet these NHL players, who I crunched the numbers and split them in half, right here, these NHL players, I don't know if you can see it, these NHL players right now, top 5 NHL salaries. Mitch Marner of the Maple Leafs, he's making $16 million this season. Number 2, Austin Matthews, making $15.9 million this season. Number 3, John Tavares, making $15.9 million this season. Number 4, Carey Price, making $15 million this season. Number 5, Erik Karlsson, making $14.5 million this season. Let's look at this, right? Why don't we look at this? All right. Now we got the MLB contracts. I got the top 10 in the league. You cut them in half. They're bigger than some of these regular NHL contracts. The biggest NHL contract right now is $16 million, held by Mitch Marner of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Okay? Let's look at the MLB contracts. All right, let's look at the MLB contracts. Because like I said, they're ginormous and they're still complaining. They're ginormous and they're still complaining. All right. Number 10, Clayton Kershaw. $31 million per season, 3 years, $93 million. I cut his salary in half. It's $15.5 million. Okay? $15.5 million. All right. The 5th largest contract in the NHL is $14.5 million. You cut Clayton Kershaw's salary in half. He's making more money than the 5th largest contract in the NHL. Tied for 8th, Manny Machado, $32 million per season. 10 years, $300 million. If you cut his salary in half, he's making the same amount as the highest paid NHL player right now at $16 million. If you cut it in half. This is why, I said it before, I'm going to say it again. And here is where I gotta take the credit. This is why the NHL is getting back quicker, because they don't have the players worrying about the money. Because he's making $16 million. The 8th largest contract in the MLB, if you cut that in half, that's the equivalent to the highest paid contract in the NHL. Tied for 8th, David Price, $32 million per season, 7 years, $217 million. Half of his salary would be $16 million. Same thing. He's making the same amount of money if they were to cut his salary in half as the highest paid NHL player, Mitch Marner from the Toronto Maple Leafs. Number 7, Justin Verlander. $33 million per season, 2 years, $66 million. Half of his salary would be $16.5. Number 4, tied for number 4, Nolan Arenado. $35 million per season, 8 years, $260 million. Half of his salary would be $17.5. You cut these guys' salaries in half, they're making more than the NHL's highest paid player right now. And if you were to cut the highest paid players, if you were to cut the highest paid NHL player's salary in half, and Mitch Marner right now, he would be getting $8 million this season. Some guys in the MLB that just got their first contracts are making $8 million, and if you were to cut his contract in half, that's $8 million this season. See where I'm coming from? Tied for 4th, Steven Strasburg, $35 million per season, 7 years, $245 million. Half of his salary would be $17.5. Number 4, tied, Zach Greinke, $35 million per season, 6 years, $216.5 million. Half salary, $17.5 million. I'm telling you, man. They're still making, you cut these salaries in half, they're still making a lot more than these MLB players, or the NHL players. Still making a lot more. Whoops, dropped my paper. They're still making a lot more. Right? Number 3, Max Scherzer. $35.9 million per season, 7 years, $210 million. Half of his salary, $17.95. Still making more than the top NHL player. Number 2, Garrett Cole, $36 million per season, 9 years, $324 million. Half of his salary is $18 million. Still making more than the largest paid NHL player in the league. And you cut his salary in half. You cut it in half again. Some of these guys, $18 million, you cut it in half. That's $9 million. You're still making more. If you cut these guys' salaries in half by once more, you're still making more money. You'll make $9 million this season, and the NHL players would make $8 million if you cut it in half. Number 1, Mike Trout, $37.7 million per season, 12 years, $426.5 million. Half of his salary is $18.85 million. And these players, not Mike Trout, I highlighted a couple names on here. These are the players that I think are going to come out and complain the most. Manny Machado, Nolan Arenado. Okay, those are the 2 biggest ones. And I could see Justin Verlander and Zach Greinke having a problem. Verlander's got a little bit of an attitude. I don't like Verlander. Greinke, I don't know. He signed that big contract with Houston. He's kind of a little cocky. I can see him complaining a lot. Right, those are the 4 players. I don't see Clayton Kershaw complaining because he's almost at the end of his deal. I don't see David Price complaining only because he better be happy with his contract. He's not even that good anymore, and he's still making $32 million a season. Steven Strasburg, I think he might only because he did win. I think he won the World Series MVP. I could see him possibly being a little bit angry only because, I'm the World Series MVP and I'm going to get my salary cut in half. Why is this? I don't see Max Scherzer being mad because I think just Max Scherzer loves to, and I like Max Scherzer. I'm not saying this because I'm biased. Max Scherzer, I think, just goes out there and plays. I don't think he's all about the money. Maybe he is. I think all these players have a little bit of money neediness in them. Garrett Cole, it all depends because this is real first huge contract, with the Yankees. So if they cut his salary, I could see him maybe getting a little bit angry. Mike Trout on this list, definitely not. I don't see. Mike Trout goes out there and loves the sport of baseball. I don't care how much you make the argument. Out of all the players in the MLB, Mike Trout would probably be the one last to complain about the salary because I really truly think that out of all the players in the MLB, Mike Trout's one of the most guys that really loves the sport of baseball. Yeah, he does it for the money because you have to have money in order to, afford a house, afford food, everything. But he wouldn't be the guy complaining that I'm only going to get $16 million this season because he would make $18.85 anyway. Right? Make $18.85 anyway. So it really all depends. Right? Really all depends. Just grab this. It really all depends on what is going to happen. Really all depends, because I could see Mike Trout complaining maybe, but out of all the players in the MLB, he would be the last one on my list to have complain about something like this. But yet still these MLB players still complaining. And this is where I feel bad about Rob Manfred. Sure, he ain't the best. He ain't the best commissioner, sure. I don't think no commissioner is best. Every commissioner has those ups and downs. I can name every commissioner's up and down. I can name a couple, actually. I can definitely name Roger Goodell. He doesn't take a stand sometimes. He sometimes just lets those players do what they want. So he won't get guys out of the NFL. He'll keep them in. Tyreek Hill, for example. Michael Vick should have been kicked out of the NFL. He got suspended for a couple of games, right? Roger Goodell, weak on the suspensions. One thing that I don't like about Rob Manfred was when he only suspended Alex Cora for this season. That might not even happen now. Right? And same with AJ Hinch. All those guys should be kicked out of the MLB and never be able to step foot in a locker room again. They shouldn't be. Even if you get special access to the stadium, you shouldn't be. Because knowing them, they'll find a way to cheat again. But if they said that they're not, they said too that they're not. Rob Manfred said he ain't gonna carry over the suspensions if the season doesn't play. That's one thing I don't like about Rob Manfred. Adam Silver, NHL commissioner. The one thing I don't like about it, I think this process has been a little slow for him. I think they kind of I think if they would have maybe done this, I think the NHL took a while. Now all of a sudden start the league back up. And it's not, I'm happy that they're starting the league back up, but it annoys me a little bit that they couldn't do this 2-3 weeks ago, right? Because the NBA started, MLB started, now they started now. I think it's a little it's later, right? Because you think about it, if all this happened 2-3 weeks ago, they could have been playing in 2 weeks. They got to wait now, probably till July or late June. That's one thing. Adam Silver, he was up there in the beginning with this whole lockdown scenario, and now he's kind of he's still working at it, but it's he's not going to address it till a week ago. I think they said 3-4 weeks until they're going to come out with their full plan. So who even knows when that is? That could be mid-June to the end of June, right? We don't even know. There's a couple of things that I don't like about each commissioner. No commissioner is perfect, in my opinion. Each commissioner has some problems. But what I want to make clear is these MLB players only are caring about the money. They're caring about the money. Oh, Manny Machado, I'm angry. I'm going to make $16 million this season if you cut my salary in half. Oh, I'm Nolan Arenado. I'm going to jump on Manny Machado and I'm going to be like, oh, I'm angry. I'm only going to make $17.5 million this season. Next season, you'll be right back up there making $35 million again. You'll be right back up there. I promise. If next season's normal, you won't get another pay cut. It's 1 year. It's 1 year where you're going to make $16 million, and you're complaining. Just think about that for a second. Think about it. I'm going to pause for 5 seconds. I just want you watching this video just to think. Okay? In like 3 seconds, in a couple seconds from now. Think about this. If the MLB comes back, they cut the salaries in half, the players somehow come to an agreement. For a guy like Mike Trout, I don't think he's going to play. He'll make $18.85 this season. Okay? It's a lot. Right? For an everyday human being, for an everyday normal person, just working a job, having an office job or whatever, I don't think they make $18.85 million in a season. Okay, now just think about this. Then next year, if everything's back to somewhat normal, Mike Trout will make $37.7 million. Do you really think that's going to affect these guys that much? I'll give you 5 seconds. All right. Hopefully you know the answer. It shouldn't affect them. Shouldn't affect them. Still making $18 million this season. Next season, he'll still be making $37.7 million this season. I'm not using Mike Trout because I'm mad at him. I'm using him as an example because he's got the highest paid contract in the MLB. All I'm saying is the reason the NHL is back before the MLB is because the NHL players are playing because they love the sport, and they're not playing because they're gonna still make $16 million this season. And they're also playing, and they're also the reason why they came to a deal sooner was because they don't have to worry, I'm only going to, you couldn't cut my salary in half? Really? You have to do that? Now I'm only making $15.5 million. Now I'm only making $18 million. Now I'm only making $16 million. These guys' contract on a daily year is $16 million, is the highest paid NHL player. Mitch Marner, going to say it for the 5th time. $16 million. Maple Leafs. And they're still complaining. So you got to think average contracts in the NHL are probably about $9 million. You see, and I'm telling you, man, like, that's the thing. And I've said this before. This is why you don't see super teams anymore in sports. Because of the money. So you're telling me, let's just say LeBron, right? LeBron, you can't get LeBron. You wouldn't be able to get LeBron, KD, Stephen Curry, and let's just put Kawhi Leonard in there. You wouldn't be able to get all of them on the same team. One, it just wouldn't match. KD and LeBron hate each other, and Curry hates LeBron, and I just don't see I don't know if KD and Curry are still close anymore. That's why I don't see super teams anymore. This is why I don't see the 1990s Yankees anymore. This is why you don't see the 90s Bulls. This is why you don't see, the Heat from 2010, 2012, right? That was big enough. Those contracts were big enough, but they've only gotten bigger throughout the years, right? So this is why you don't see those super teams that win 6 like MJ and the Bulls, right? That's why you don't see them. Very rare do you see a team like the Miami Heat. Very rare will you see a team like the Golden State Warriors again with those superstars on that team, because the contracts are only going to get bigger. Only going to get bigger. Only going to get bigger. Are you going to see another New England? I don't know. Right? Football's contracts aren't as big, but are you going to be able to afford, Brady they had that whole time. They had some players coming in now. They never had multiple big contract guys. Right? They had Brady, who was a big contract. But my point, again, I'm going to say it for about the 2nd, 3rd time today on the podcast. This is why, because of the money, you don't see super teams anymore really in sports. You don't. You could say, the Lakers, they might be a super team. The Bucks might be a super team now. So you think the Bucks are going to be as good as the 90 Bulls? Bucks are good. They're very good. They didn't win a final last year when they were probably the best team in the NBA. Who knows if the NBA returns this year, the Lakers are going to bring them a run for their money. Right? Next year is my hope the Nets are going to be a finals contender, so the Bucks got to look out for them. The Bulls, were a full-on super team. They won 6. They had the best player of all time in Michael Jordan. Right? What else needs to be said? Right? This is why you don't see super teams anymore. You can't put a team with Mike Trout, Garrett Cole, Manny Machado, Nolan Arenado, Max Scherzer on it. Right? That's why it was so fascinating, the Yankees. You know, when they had Lou Gehrig, Joe DiMaggio, Babe Ruth, all those guys. Those guys' contracts, if they were playing now, you would not be able to have that. Those guys' contracts would be through the roof. That's why you see most 90% of the crazy good super teams were back in the 1900s. Because the contracts weren't, breaking news, Billy Bob Joe signs, or whatever, breaking news, this guy signs a $300 million contract with this team, right? That's why you don't see it anymore. Because these contracts are getting so big, and these sports teams can't handle it. Cap space is through the roof. It's hard enough for the Nets right now to get Bradley Beal. They would need to give away 2 players. Karis LeVert and Dinwiddie probably. I talked about that a couple podcasts ago. I think last week. Alright? That's why you don't see them. Same with the 90s Knicks. The Knicks with, all those good players. The Knicks had Bernard King. The Knicks had Patrick Ewing. The Knicks had all those good players. The Knicks aren't... Who knows if the Knicks will be there, right? Who knows? There hasn't been... The Warriors are the closest team to be the Bulls. To be the 90s Bulls. Lakers now, they're good, but they don't have a guy, and they don't have Michael Jordan. They don't have, they don't have 3 great players. They have 2 great players in AD and LeBron, right? Bucks, really, they have Eric Bledsoe. They have Eric Bledsoe. They have, Middleton, they have Chris Middleton, they have Giannis, but Chris Middleton and Eric Bledsoe aren't great. LeBron, Pippen, and Rodman, they were great together, right? That's why you don't see these super teams anymore. Just saying. That's what I'm trying to put out. So, I don't know, you might disagree with me strongly. Comment down below if you agree. Like I said, it really all depends. But I think what the MLB is trying to do is they're just trying to get sports back for fans, and it all depends. Some people it's kind of a theory at this point. I think the MLB, why they're trying just to cut the salaries is because it's only 82 games. It's not 162. You can't give a guy the full amount of money for him to only play 82 games. Right? At the rate this is going, these players might not even get paid, right? Because now you got to think you should earn your pay. You shouldn't just sit and get paid. That's why you see when big name players go down, get injured, you see them sometimes get released, especially if they haven't played that good. That's why the Jets are thinking about releasing Le'Veon Bell after this season if he doesn't have a good year, because his contract's huge. Him and Mosley are probably the 2 biggest contracts on the Jets, and then here comes Adams wanting one. I talked about that yesterday on the podcast. I think Adams deserves it, but there's just a certain amount of things here that there's just some things that are the MLB would be able to come back if the pay was like the NHL. And it shows. And I'm not lying. You can't really debate about this. It's just true. The facts are there. The NHL had the lower pay. The MLB has the higher pay. And it shows the MLB struggling because they can't come to an agreement. But the NHL is fine because their salaries are lower. It's facts. It shows right there. There's really, this is one thing that you really can't argue now. I know I said opinions and everything, but this is kind of the facts are there, right? Yeah, sure, you could say, the MLB is not slowed down. I mean, you ask 90% of MLB fans, they're going to say, yeah, it's because the MLB players need the money. Comment down below. Comment down below if you think the MLB plan's fine. And if you think the MLB, if that's, comment down below if you agree with me in my statements here. Because I know some people are very sensitive about this topic. Some people think that, it's outrageous, they should get the money. And there's also some people that are like, no, don't give him the money. He doesn't deserve it and everything like that. Like I said, though, it really all depends. It's up in the air at the moment. It's going to be very interesting. So now we get up the NHL plan. Alright, so here we go. So the NHL unveils 2014 playoff format details and its plans to return back. So NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman came out yesterday, had a whole press thing, had a big thing about it that said NHL coming back under these standards, these elements. I'm going to read them all to you guys now. So, the NHL, the 2019-2020 NHL regular season is officially over on Tuesday. NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman announced that the league will transition into a 24-team conference-based playoff format when play resumes. He also announced and explains the specific details that the NHL will operate under once the playoffs begin. So, I have an odd feeling, and I know I said my whole 5-game plan. I have a very odd feeling that the NHL is going to, or the NBA, I'm sorry, the NBA is going to follow the NHL, just because, excuse me, just because that it's almost the same thing, right? They end at around the same time. They have kind of the same standards where they're almost close together. I have an odd feeling the NBA is going to follow the NHL's footsteps and not play again in the regular season. Here are the details about the playoff format that Bettman outlined. There is no set start date for return to play, obviously. There was rumors about July floating around, July 1st, late June. There's a bunch of it. Really no set date. That was true. 2 hub cities, so 2 main cities. One for Eastern Conference games and the other one for Western Conference. So guys, the teams in the Eastern Conference and the guys in the Western Conference, right? Metropolitan, Atlantic, and then you got, for the Western, you got a bunch of those. Teams will be limited to 50 personnel in their respective hub city. A small number of support staff will also be permitted in the event arenas. A comprehensive COVID-19 testing system will be put in place. Phase 2 of return to play plan is expected to begin in early June, but there's no official date. Phase 3 will include the start of training camp and is targeted for early July. Phase 4, which has no target date yet, will include the return of play clubs facing off in 2 hub cities for 4 round robins. Qualifying rounds, and the Stanley Cup playoffs. The NHL is currently considering Chicago, Columbus, Dallas, Edmonton, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Pittsburgh, Toronto, and Vancouver as hub cities. In this particular playoff format, the top 4 seeds determined by points percentage. In the East would be the Bruins, the Lightning, Capitals, Flyers. Top 4 teams in the West would be the Blues, the Avalanche, the Golden Knights, and the Dallas Stars. Those 8 teams will face off in a round robin in order to determine seeding for the first round. Here's what the play-in round each conference would look like. So the East would be number 5 seeded Penguins versus number 12 seeded Canadiens. Number 6 seeded Hurricanes versus the number 11 seeded Rangers. Let's go, Rangers. Number 7 seeded Islanders versus number 10 seeded Panthers. And a number 8 seeded Maple Leafs versus the number 9 seeded Blue Jackets. West would be number 5 seeded Oilers versus the number 12 seeded Blackhawks, number 6 seeded Predators versus the number 11 seeded Coyotes, number 7 seeded Canucks versus number 10 seeded Minnesota Wild, number 8 seeded Flames versus the number 9 seeded Jets. Bettman, the Winnipeg Jets, not the New York Jets, the Winnipeg Jets. Bettman also announced that the league has not yet decided if it will be a bracket format or determined by seeding following the opening round. So the first round will be a best-of-5 series format, while the second round will transition to the best-of-7 format. So it almost, this where I was reading this the other day, it almost reminds me of a little bit of like the MLB, or the MLB. The division round and all that, that's 5 games, best out of 5. Wild card's obviously 1. Then you go to the championship, the ALCS, NLCS, that's 7 games. Then obviously the World Series, 7 games. So this reminds me a little bit of the MLB. Wild card, AL wild card, NL wild card's 1 game. ALDS, NLDS is 5-game series, and then the ALCS, NLCS is 7 games, and then obviously the World Series is 7 games as well. So this reminds me a little bit of the we might get a little bit of like an MLB spin type playoff. 5 games, then transitions into 7 games, and obviously Stanley Cup and all that would probably be 7 games is my guess. First round will be best of 5 series format, while second round will transition to best of 7 format. Conference finals and Stanley Cups will also be traditional best of 7. So it's pretty much like an MLB playoff format is what I'm getting out of this. Is it's going to be like, there's going to be, obviously you're going to have your best out of 5, then transition to best out of 7, then you're going to have the Stanley Cup, which is going to be also best out of 7. So, playoff almost here. So, that's the whole thing. So, then 7 format. So, now, we go back into another thing. So, this is the other, what playoff format means for all. Okay, this is what it is. So, this is another one. So, NHL coronavirus pause, what playoff format means for all 32 teams, updated testing and more. So, it has been 75 days since the NHL hit pause button on the 2019-2020 season because of the coronavirus pandemic. As also cancellations and postponements around the world of sports continue. There have been also continuous nuggets of new information regarding the potential resumption of the season, the draft, and the playoffs, and how it all affects 2020 and 2021. As players and executives and fans continue to adjust to the new normal, we will provide updates every week. This is coming from ESPN, answering all the burning questions about the various angles NHL relations to the pandemic. Although on ice, action remains on the shelf. There have been some intriguing developments since last week's update, including a specific 2014 playoff format for if the league resumes play, which gets approved by both the NHL and the NHLPA, NHL Players Association. Get caught up on it all here. Has there been an update on when the league will return? This week brought some progress. On Tuesday, NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman gave a news conference during he outlined the return to play format see below and gave some clarity to the league stands on where clarity on where the league stands. I knew charity didn't make sense in that sentence. Clarity. For all intents purposes, 2019-2020 season now complete. The Boston Bruins are your President's Trophies winner. Leon Rizaldi took home the Art Ross and with 110 points, becoming the first German-born player to win the honor. Alex Ovechkin and David Pastrnak shared goal-scoring title with 48 apiece. Ovechkin's a fun guy to watch. Ovechkin falls 2 goals short of his 9th 50-goal season, which would have tied Mike Bossy, Wayne Gretzky for the most all-time. He would have got that if none of this happened. The Buffalo Sabres, Detroit Red Wings, Los Angeles Kings, Anaheim Ducks, San Jose Sharks, Ottawa Senators, and New Jersey Devils won't take the ice again this season, and they're automatically entered into the draft lottery. For the rest of the 24 teams, training camps won't begin until at least July. According to Bettman, training camps should last roughly 3 weeks. Given a new schedule, Bettman suggested 2020-21 season start even later than imagined, perhaps as late as January. This is the part where I don't like. I think they should just start the season at the normal time. I know you got to give everybody a fair chance, to get ready, practice and all that. I know that. But I really feel like it would be better if they would just start the season on time next year, because that's going to then delay the next season, then delay the next season, then delay so on, right? That's the part of where I don't really like that, but that's what it obviously is. We could start with the Winter Classic, Bettman said on appearance on the Tim and Sid show on CLG, whatever, Sportsnet. 590 following his news conference. Anything is possible. What's the latest on the playoff format? By a 29-2 vote, the executive board of the NHL approved a 2014 return to play. I'm assuming those 2 votes are probably from guys that are not on the regular teams. Format for the restart of the 2019-2020 season. And the NHL announced its approval for the format on Tuesday. The format was born out of the joint NHLPA return to play. Committee has been meeting on conference calls each week for the past month or so. The approved playoff plan will temporarily replace the division wildcard round format that the league has used since 2012-2013, with 2 conference tournaments of a 12-team. Expanding Stanley Cup from 16 to 24 has been favored by the NHL as a solution for teams that were on the playoff bubble when the season was paused. So that's why the Rangers are in. You might be like, well, the Rangers technically aren't in the playoffs. They were in, they were in the little bubble. Devils, Red Wings, Senators, Buffalo Sabres, those teams are already out. That's why, if you don't get that reasoning, that's why. These are teams that are in the bubbles. These are teams that were true talks when the season was paused. Right? The Red Wings were eliminated. The Devils really weren't a talk. The Sabres really weren't a talk. The Rangers, a lot of people were talking about possibly making the playoffs. They were a couple games out of it. Them, Islanders, and the Blue Jackets are all fighting for that 6th, 5th seed. That's why. So the top 4 teams in each conference won't sit Italy by. Did everyone agree on 2014? Not everybody. A player who has the NHL executive board calls told There was a pretty lively debate and said some guys brought up good points against this format. Of the 31 vote, 1 represented from every being, 29 votes for 2 voted against. The rep for Carolina Panthers, the rep for Tampa Bay Lightning, both confirmed they voted against. So here, these are the current matchups for the return to play format. I know I said this earlier, but it would be the Bruins, number 1 seed, Tampa Bay Lightning, number 2 seed, Capitals, number 3, Philadelphia Flyers, number 4 seed. Play-in series. These were the play-in series. So it would be Penguins, Canadiens, Hurricanes, Rangers, Islanders, Panthers, Maple Leafs, Blue Jackets. Western would be Blues, Avalanche, Knights, Stars, 1 through 4. I said it in order. Oilers, Blackhawks, and then these are this 5 seeds through 12. It would be the Oilers, Blackhawks, Predators, Coyotes, Canucks, Wild, Flames, Winnipeg Jets. And you would have all that. So, who knows if there's going to be fans in attendance. That might not even be a thing. But my point here is the NHL obviously came to an agreement, which is good, right? Came to an agreement. They're headed in the right direction right now. People, NHL fans like me, are happy. Things are going good, right? And I know I keep on bringing up the money aspect, but I really truly believe that this is why. I believe why the NHL is one of the ones that are really boosting forward. There's 2 players that disagreed with it. 2 players. And I don't even think it was about the money aspect. It wasn't even about the money aspect. I think it was just about maybe just the whole format, maybe just when it's going to start, with everything regarding it. Maybe the play-in series. The MLB players, they're not arguing really about the whole, I don't like this playoff format, I don't like this amount of games, I don't like that. They're not worried about that. They're worried about the money. Because once again, my point here, highest paid NHL player, $16 million. You were to cut some of these MLB players' salaries in half, it equals the regular salary these guys are making in a regular season. That's why the NHL doesn't have to worry about the money. It's the problem. MLB so big, money so big, players are so big, and the money gathered, players get this amount of money, player gets this amount of money, all of a sudden, you can't get your league back up and running because of the money. This is why I think the NHL is going good. So, what this means for the Rangers and Islanders will both be in the playoffs. Devils won't. Obviously, you said the Devils won't, Sabres won't, Red Wings won't, Ottawa Senators I don't think won't. I think those were the teams. But, the Rangers now, they obviously have a chance. They'll play against the Carolina Hurricanes, who I really believe they have a shot at the game. The Carolina Hurricanes, the Rangers can beat them. That's a very winnable game. The Hurricanes have a couple good players here and there. They have a good winger. They got a good center. The Rangers with Kaapo Kakko. If Kaapo Kakko can come on in the playoffs, I would be fine with that. We got Artemi Panarin, our new guy in the offseason. He's had a very good year. He's been an assist and a goal man. We picked him up because of goal man. We needed a goal scorer. We got Artemi Panarin, who's very good. I really believe he has a lot of playoff experience being on the Blue Jackets and everything, who is with them. He has a lot of playoff experience. He's kind of that veteran in that locker room. We obviously have Lundqvist, who's not as good anymore. He could really be a mentor to that goalie, our younger goalie now, if we can get there. Like that, but obviously it gives more teams a chance now, and that's what I like. It's going to be, tough for the Devils fans and the Sabres fans and all them out there. I know a couple Sabres fans and all that, but it's going to be tough for them. But, it's overall, the Rangers, if the season kept on going how it was, the Rangers wouldn't have been in the playoffs. But they took the bubble teams. They took the teams that were in the talks. They took the teams that were, not completely out of it. Like the Red Wings were the earliest team, I think, to be eliminated in NHL history. They took the teams like the Sabres, they were bottom of the division. The Devils were nowhere really, they were the bottom of the division. There's a couple teams in there that were really like, okay, don't add them, right? Not every team should be added, right? Because there's 31 NHL teams, right? You can't add all 31 of them to a playoff. That would just be, right? So that's why I agree with this whole thing, because it really, I think, yeah, they left some teams out, but those are the teams that obviously don't deserve, right? I'm not saying the Rangers deserve. The Rangers do. The Rangers, I'm not saying this because I'm a Rangers fan. The Rangers were in the playoffs. Like, they were not in it. They were a talk. They were a big talk. They were in the bubble. They took the bubble teams, the Devils, the Sabres, the Red Wings. They were out of it. The Senators, they were all out of it, right? They were not even in the bubble. right? The teams that were in the bubble, the teams that were close, the teams that were really fighting for a chance that were only 1 or 2 games out are in the playoffs, which I agree with. So that's what I got for the NHL plan. Obviously, it's going to be interesting when it returns. It could return, I guess, later on now because obviously, it all depends on really what all happens here. Should be interested. So, the XFL now. So, we got some news on the XFL. So, the XFL, if you didn't know what it was, XFL stands for Extreme Football League. XFL played a single season back in, I think, 2001, held by Vince McMahon, who's the guy with WWE, and I think all that stuff there. I don't really watch WWE and stuff like that. But Vince McMahon was the leader of it. So, it was 2001. They played a single season there. It was kind of unorganized. It was not really like, it was kind of like nicknames on the back of the jerseys, like He Hate Me, guys like that. It was kind of just unorganized. It was kind of just for the entertainment. So the XFL decided to make a return this season for the 2020 season. This happened 2 years ago. I think they said they would make a return in the 2020 season. So they decided to make a return. And their return was very good, better than the AAF. They were much more successful from the AAF. If the virus doesn't hit, the XFL would be done right now. The season would be over, but I think it would play another season. The XFL was doing good. The TV ratings were dropping a little bit, but that's normal. But they were still in the point where they could still make money off of it. I was a New York Guardians fan because I, follow New York sports and everything. So I was a New York Guardians fan. I actually have a Guardians shirt. I watched all their games. We were rolling. We were playing very good. Luis Perez, who was a quarterback, he was playing good for us. We had a couple good guys on D. We had coaching Kevin Gilbride, who really helped the Giants to those Super Bowls with Manning. We had McGloin, who stopped playing for, we had Mikael McKay, very good to play for. Tim Cook was it Darius Victor. They were able to get in. Darius Victor could grind out 5-6 yards for you. Tim Cook was kind of more of the bounce out guy like that. We had McKay, Cody Pearson. All those guys were very good receivers. And we were playing good, right? We were definitely, good. I think we were 3-2 and everything. We were doing good, right? Virus hits, season stops. All of a sudden, the XFL goes down like a landslide. Oliver Luck, no longer the commissioner. Vince McMahon says in the XFL court filing he won't try to buy back the XFL. But now, CBS Sports reports dozens of bidders in active discussions to buy XFL Restart League for 2021 tournament per report. So Vince McMahon said he's not the bad guy after being accused of manipulating XFL bankruptcy. Dozens of bidders exploring a potential XFL purchase. So there's going to be a lot of people that are going to want to buy the XFL. And that's what I'm trying to say. Like, I really, really believe that, they're going to be able to get this thing back up and running. I think, there might be even like for example, the Guardians had their owner or whatever. Their owner was this girl. I think it was a owner commissioner or whatever. She might, there might be some people in the XFL owners and all that might be trying to bid, because you can make money off of that, man. You make a top dollar off of that. I think the XFL will be fine. I think they will. What I liked about the XFL was you could see the replays, you could hear the coaches calling, you had more access to the field, they would interview a player after they scored a touchdown, you could hear the coaches, you can get more close to the players, camera angles were a little bit different, announcers were good, the announcers were good, they didn't have no bad announcer. They had some good announcers. They weren't no bad announcer that you never heard of that just comes out and does a game. They had serious announcers. It was on Fox. It was on ABC. It was on ESPN. They had big networks doing it, which is why I think it was successful. Unlike the AAF, they had NFL Network doing it, and that was really all it. I think they had CBS. I don't know. I think NFL Network was the only one. AAF, I watched like one game. I was done. I didn't like the AAF. Personally, I just didn't like it. I just think the competition was worse. And that's the thing. The punt returns were different. That's the thing what made the XFL, I think, more successful than the AAF, is because they added different things. There was new things that they did. It wasn't the same exact football. AAF was the same exact football with just worse talent. If you're going to have worse talent than the NFL, you got to make it change it up a little bit, right? You know, you couldn't go for a field goal. Yeah, you could go for, you could go for a field goal. You couldn't go for an extra point. It was either go for a 1-pointer from the 2-yard line, a 2-pointer from the 5-yard line, or 3 points from the 10-yard line. So if you were down 20 to 10, you technically could get right back into the game with one score. Because you could get not 20, you're down by 19. If you're down by 9, you're not down by 2 possessions. You're down by 1 possession. That's what made it so interesting. The clock, I think, the first down, clock stopped, and then once they set the ball, by 2-minute warning, under the 2-minute warning, and I think all the fourth quarter, the incomplete pass, clock stopped until it got there. Also, clock stopped if you got a first down until they called hike. But with the XFL, incomplete passes, the clock would keep going again until when the ball was placed, which made the game quicker, made the game, kind of fun to watch, made the game more fast, intense, cooler. I like the XFL. I did. The ratings were good. They weren't great. They weren't no MLB, NHL, NBA, and NFL. They were XFL ratings, right? A normal expansion league ratings. They were doing good, though. The ratings were doing pretty good. I was watching the games. I know a lot of people who was watching the games. They were doing pretty good. But do I think the XFL will return? Yes, if they can find a guy they have multiple dozens of bidders, they say. If they can find somebody, which they're going to take one of those bidders. They can find somebody that can own that league and keep it how it is. Maybe add their own little twist on it. I think it could be successful because I think people were entertained by the clock way, the punt way. You couldn't start running until the guy got the ball because they wanted to make it more interesting. Kick returns these days are kind of like, the chances of it are very slim to see a kick return, right? There's the four passes, different plays you could do. It was really cool. It was really cool, very unique, and that's what I liked about it. And that's why I think you will see it back because there was little things that made it very cool. So that's what I got for the pod today. Like I said, MLB, everything like that. A lot of sports to talk about with the MLB and, everything like that. A lot of sports to get to with that. Tomorrow, there's some Jadeveon Clowney news, I think. I think we might be talking a little bit about MJ. I know I've been pushing this back, but would the Bulls have won a 7th? I'm going to talk about that. Crunch the numbers on that. And then probably find whatever else. I have multiple notes. I do pod notes, and I'll write down things that I'm going to talk about. So usually either before the week or I'll do it during the week. I'll write down what I want to talk about. So I have 7 things that I want to talk about this week. It's just putting them in at the right time, right? Because if I have already 2 NFL things, I'm not going to put that third NFL thing in. Or if I already have 2 MLB things, sure, I like to talk about 3 things about MLB, but I like to split it up, right? This is a sports show. It's not one sport that I like to talk about. I like to talk about the 4 major sports. Baseball, basketball, football, hockey. I don't talk about soccer, golf, the match and everything. Yeah, I guess I'm talking about that a little bit. Peyton Manning, Tiger Woods, Tom Brady, Phil Mickelson, that match got very good ratings. Don't really talk golf, don't talk tennis, don't talk Frisbee or whatever. I don't talk soccer, don't talk really any of that. I talk 4 major sports. You can see here on my board all these teams. Rangers are hockey, Nets are basketball, Islanders are hockey, Giants are football, Mets are baseball, Knicks are basketball, Yankees are baseball, Jets are football, right? Things like that. These are my favorite teams. Yankees, Jets, Rangers, Nets. So, that's what I got for today's podcast today. Hopefully you enjoyed it. It is, we'll be back here tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday. Back at it with another podcast. Hopefully everybody has a good rest of their day. Hopefully everybody had a good day yesterday and has a good rest of their day today. I'll see you back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.